Hey guys, this is Makanor. Sorry for the gap in videos. Hopefully you guys can forgive me. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about sanguinarian vampires in conflict with psychic vampires in the vampire community. To me, I consider it a very human tendency to consider oneself superior or inferior to someone in the same community based off of differing lifestyle practices or perspectives. Case in point, in the otherkin community, there's an ever-growing divide between psychological otherkin and spiritual otherkin. And I feel there's a similar gap or a similar conflict between sanguinarian vampires and psychic vampires in the vampire community. Some sanguinarian vampires tend to view psychic vampires as not true vampires. And I feel that this conflict arises from two key points. And the first is definitely legitimacy. And I feel with sanguinarian vampires, they have a lot of legitimacy on their side because with them, it's an actual physiological deficiency in which they need to sustain themselves. And when they can't sustain themselves, they do experience these physical withdrawal symptoms that cannot just be easily medically explained away. Whereas with psychic vampires, it's more of a spiritual and metaphysical energy deficiency, which leads to the second point, feeding. With sanguinarian vampires, there's a lot of rules in place for feeding. That one, you need to have a mature, consenting, and willing donor. And two, that you and the donor have to get tested for any diseases that occur within the blood. And also, you need to have a proper feeding method that is harmless to the donor. Now, if you don't have any of those three, well, you're kind of crapped out of luck if you're a sanguinarian vampire. And with psychic and psionic vampires, they have a lot of other methods and ways to feed and to sustain themselves. They have, emotion. They can feed off of emotional energy. They can feed off of ambient energy of crowds and places. They can feed off of natural energy. They can feed off of elemental energy. They can feed off of tantric energy. They can feed off of chi, prana, the life force, aura. And I feel like if you was a sanguinarian vampire, you had to have all these things in place, whereas a psychic vampire could just easily feed from all these different sources of energy, it's definitely something to be very salty about. At the end of the day, the definitive concept of a vampire to me is this being that's incomplete, that's lacking something. In order to make up for what it lacks, it sustains and it feeds itself from other sources. Now, whether you're a sanguinarian vampire and you feed from blood, or you're a psychic vampire and you feed from various other forms of energy, at the end of the day, there's still the common drive to sustain and feed oneself, to make oneself whole. And I think it's just nothing but immature and ignorant to consider another, whether they're psychic or sanguinarian vampire, to be not true vampires. This is Makanor. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Bye.